Juan, a poor, struggling young man who can't even afford his apartment rent. He works as an artist, and while his art does bring in a little money, it's not much. We see him sitting on the street painting a portrait of a beautiful girl. When he finishes, she's amazed by the artwork, but just as he's about to start a new painting, a luxurious car pulls up. Inside is the richest man in the village. To Juan's shock, with this man is none other than Juan's ex-girlfriend. The rich man purposely humiliates Juan in front of her. He throws money at him and mocks, "Here you go, this should cover your whole day's earnings," then laughs in his face. Juan, embarrassed and wearing only a quarter of his clothes, gathers his stuff and heads to his worn-out car. Honestly, it's hard to tell whether he's driving it or it's dragging him. Juan returns to his village, a place filled with artists, galleries, and homes of painters. You could call it, my friend, a haven for artists. On his way home, he runs into his landlord, who demands the overdue rent. Fed up, Juan throws the rent money in his face. Before he can leave, the landlord tells him that's only for last month. He still owes this month's rent. Juan casually replies, "I'll pay later," which angers the landlord enough to throw a bottle of water at him. Now, you'd expect Juan to throw it back, right? Nope. Our sweet Juan picks up the bottle and gently puts it with his collection. He gathers and sells plastic bottles at the end of each month. The landlord sneers and says, "That's the poor man's logic," mocking how Juan collects plastic and cans. Of course, all respect to those who do this work. Juan then visits his dream gallery, a place he wishes to exhibit his artwork in someday. Like every day, he approaches the gallery owner, asking him to sponsor his painting. He even hands over some money, but the owner laughs and says, "This won't even cover 1 square meter of wall space." He leaves Juan and heads upstairs. Juan follows him, begging him to display his painting. The owner coldly replies, "Your art is garbage, Juan." Juan defends himself, saying, "I've improved so much, even my girlfriend Tian is impressed by it." Now, let me tell you, my friend, Tian is blind. Seriously, I'm not joking. She lost her vision due to an eye problem years ago. The gallery owner scoffs, "So you're relying on the opinion of your blind girlfriend? You've lost it." Then he points to another painting of a potato and says, "Now this, when I look at it, I actually feel hungry. That's how real it looks." Juan, crushed, doesn't know what to say. Now, about Tian, she can't see, and the only job she could find is working as a massage therapist. Unfortunately, this job puts her at risk of harassment, and people in the place take advantage of her blindness. One day, Juan catches someone harassing her and immediately takes revenge, doing to the harassers exactly what they did to her. He tells them, "Now do you feel what this poor girl feels?" He expects them to regret their actions, but instead, they gang up and beat him. After the beating, Juan and Tian go to the apartment where she treats his wounds. Juan exaggerates, claiming, "I beat them all up without mercy." Tian, who heard the attackers screaming, says, "Yeah, I heard them in pain from the beatings," unaware that it was actually Juan screaming. Juan then surprises her with a gift, a pair of shoes. She loves them. They dance together for a while, and just as Juan leans in to give her mouth to eye, she suddenly hears someone else in the room. She asks, "Who's that?" Juan quickly says, "Just a friend who got evicted. He's staying with me." He tells his friend to keep his eyes shut, but Tian feels uncomfortable and leaves. Later, Juan and his friend go to the rooftop to drink some sauce. They get so drunk they pass out. Suddenly, a spaceship appears above them. Juan wakes up in shock and tries to wake his friend, but the guy is completely knocked out. The spaceship hovers right over their neighborhood. Juan sees a girl stepping out of the spaceship. She looks like a cartoon character, and she's pointing at 2 others who come down with her. It seems like they've come to the area to draw. Juan tries to take a picture of them, but the fool forgot the flash was on, so the aliens spot him and vanish in seconds, along with their ship. But Juan notices that they dropped something. When he goes to check, he finds it's a pen. Since he's an artist, he keeps it and goes to sleep. The next morning, he wakes up shaken, remembering everything. His friend sees him and jokes, "Are you dead or just asleep?" Juan starts telling him all about what happened on the rooftop. To his shock, his friend starts finishing the details for him. Juan is stunned, thinking maybe his friend saw it too, but his friend explains that Juan was mumbling the whole thing in his sleep. Turns out before bed, Juan had even drawn the 3 aliens. Juan loses hope that his friend will believe him and heads out to paint people on the street. While he's painting, his color runs out. He searches for more but can't find the right one. Then he spots the alien pen from last night. He decides to use it to finish the painting. First, he tests it on another sheet, and suddenly the drawing he just made turns real. He's in shock. To confirm what just happened, he draws an apple. Once again, it turns real. Overjoyed, he eats the apple, and it's definitely real. Excited, he puts the apple in his pocket and rushes to his friend to tell him everything. He shows him what's left of the apple and explains that he drew it and it came to life. But as usual, his friend doesn't believe him. He eats the rest of the apple and says, "What nonsense are you talking about? Go check into a hospital." To prove it, Juan draws a gold bar, just like his friend requested. But surprisingly, the drawing doesn't turn real immediately. His friend scoffs and throws the paper out the window. Suddenly, they hear an old man yelling in pain. The paper hit his head. The man scolds them for throwing bricks from the window, but then sees the gold bar on the ground, grabs it, slips it into his pocket, and walks away like nothing happened. That's when Juan's friend finally believes him. He tells Juan to draw a bigger gold bar, which he does, and they're both amazed. Since they live in a tiny room, Juan decides to draw a giant palace. He draws it, and suddenly, the palace appears in the middle of the city out of nowhere. People are shocked. The police arrive shortly after, just as confused. "We were just here 5 minutes ago. Who had time to build this?" they ask. The officers try to open the palace gates, and that's when Juan and his friend realize they've made a big mistake. Juan tries to erase the drawing, but doesn't know how. Then he discovers a button on the pen that deletes any drawing he doesn't want. He presses it, and instantly, the palace disappears before everyone's eyes. Once again, people are left speechless. Back in their room, Juan's friend tells him, "We need to draw money, at least 200 million won." He tries it himself, drawing a number, but it doesn't turn into money, just stays a number. Juan takes the pen, skillfully draws stacks of cash, and within seconds the room floods with so much money it covers them completely. Later, the building owner comes by and scolds the artists for leaving junk outside. One of the girls tries to respond, but the owner snaps, "You!" coming in with one guy, leaving with another. Then he calls out to Juan to lecture him too, but suddenly Juan and his friend appear, dressed in clown-like outfits they believe are what rich people wear, showing off in front of the whole neighborhood. Juan pulls out huge amounts of cash and tells the landlord, "Here's rent for the next 100 years. The landlord is stunned, having no idea where Juan got all this money. But Juan isn't done. Soon, the neighbors see him showing up in 3 luxury cars with girls who entertain him and tell him jokes. He heads to a top real estate company to buy the palace he always dreamed of. There, he finds his ex with her new boyfriend, who's refusing to buy her a villa worth just 15 million. Juan approaches the secretary and asks for 2 palaces in the most exclusive area in the city. He pulls out cash and pays for both right in front of his ex, who instantly regrets letting him go. Later that night, Juan surprises his blind girlfriend Tien by taking her to the new palace he bought for her. He asks her to guess what's in front of her. She says, "The 40 million won palace." "Everyone's talking about you and the things you're buying." Juan's a little disappointed that the surprise is ruined, but he continues with the celebration. There's a hallway full of guests congratulating Tien on her new palace. And because she can't see, Juan brings a girl whose job is to describe everything to her, from the chandeliers to how beautiful the entire palace is. He proposes to her in front of all the guests, but Tien rejects his proposal and walks away. He follows her and asks if she doesn't love him. She tells him that she does love him, so he asks, "If you love me, then why did you reject me and embarrass me in front of everyone at the party?" She replies that she did it for his own good, because if they got married, he would be embarrassed his whole life since she's blind and he's rich. He could choose any girl he wanted. He tells her that he's not rich, that all his wealth came from his artwork. She realizes then that he became famous through selling his paintings. He explains to her the story of the magical pen from the aliens. When Tien hears about the magic pen, she asks him to draw her a pair of eyes and make them real so she can see. Juan likes the idea and starts drawing eyes exactly like those of a beautiful girl. They wait for the eyes to come out of the drawing and enter Tien's body, but instead the eyes appear on the shoulder of Mangfa, and it's terrifying. They quickly erase the eyes so they disappear, just like the villa did earlier. Then they wonder, what if they drew a whole face? Would a face appear too? It might be just as scary. so they decide to draw Tian's entire body and draw the eyes on her face so that they appear exactly where they should. The drawing takes 5 hours to complete. When it's finished, Tian waits anxiously for her vision to return, but nothing happens. She feels like they were just messing with her, so she leaves the house. As she steps outside, she suddenly disappears at the door and reappears from inside the painting, with her eyes open. It worked. Tian can now see. Juan begins showing her around, taking her on tours all over China. Mangfa falls in love with the TikToker he was once dying over. Their lives turn around completely. Juan finally lands an art exhibition to showcase his paintings, artworks that no one used to care about or buy for even the lowest price. Now his paintings are auctioned off and people keep raising the bids. All of this because he became rich, and everyone thinks it's because of the talent behind his paintings. But the idea is that the magical pen doesn't create things out of thin air. Even Tian's eyes didn't come from nothing. At the exact moment she received her vision, a famous actress suddenly lost her sight on a film set. The event went viral and people were stunned, wondering what had happened to the actress's eyes. Even the money they used during the drawing process didn't come from nowhere. The same amount disappeared from a bank, and security cameras caught the money vanishing. The police go crazy trying to understand what's happening. Li Changyi also becomes insanely jealous and starts trying to figure out how Juan got so rich. When he hears about the bank theft, he connects the dots and contacts the police, telling them he knows someone who got rich overnight. Surely that must be the one who stole the money. The police discover that the serial numbers on the money Juan used to buy apartments match the ones from the stolen bank funds. They go to arrest him and Mangfa in the middle of an art auction, just as people are buying his paintings. Juan and Mangfa try to explain that they didn't steal anything, that they have a kind of magic that lets them get whatever they want, but they don't mention the magic pen. They tell the police, "Ask for anything and we'll make it appear right now." The police ask for a Ferrari. Juan and his friend request that no one looks at them while the magic works, and suddenly, a red Ferrari appears inside the police station. The police are stunned, and since there's no evidence of theft, they are released. That night, someone knocks on their door. They're terrified, thinking it's the police again. But it turns out to be Juan's ex-girlfriend, the materialistic one who had left him long ago. Her husband, the painter Li Changyi, hit her out of jealousy over Juan. She came to apologize for not choosing Juan back then and for only caring about money. She tells him she's divorcing her husband and going back to her family, but Juan says she didn't do anything wrong by leaving him. What could she have done with a poor man who neglected their relationship and cared only about his paintings? At the time, his father was sick in the hospital and she truly needed financial help. That's what her current husband gave her. He tells her not to feel guilty. Then he begins reminiscing, losing himself in thought, and tells her the full story of the magical pen. Juan opened the safe to show her the pen, but disaster struck. Her husband had planted a hidden camera in her clothes and saw and heard everything Juan said. Now he knew the secret of the magical pen. Meanwhile, the police officer was reading a report about a Ferrari that mysteriously disappeared from an auto expo. It was the same Ferrari Juan and his friend had summoned with the pen. So the officer went straight to their house. He asked them to hand over the magical device that had been helping them, warning that otherwise they'd be treated as thieves. However, since there was no law against magic yet, there would be no charges if they cooperated and surrendered the pen. Juan didn't hesitate for a second. He was ready to hand the pen over to the police. But there was just one problem. The pen was already stolen. It had fallen into Li Changyi's hands, and he had begun using it with help from his assistants. The first thing Changyi drew was a stunning art gallery he'd always dreamed of owning. Then he drew royal outfits and an ancient imperial palace, the same design as China's historic palaces, basically stealing the image of Chinese heritage. He had his wife tied up and tortured her. Then he drew a beautiful girl from the cover of a magazine to become real so he could marry her. The girl, who had been participating in a beauty pageant, vanished suddenly, taken into Li Changyi's world. Everything he did made it easy for the police to track him down. The officer explained to Changyi that the pen doesn't create things from thin air, it transfers them from someone else, meaning you're stealing. Despite everything, Changyi still insisted he had done nothing wrong. All he did was draw. Then his assistant suggested that he use the pen to draw a new planet they could escape to, somewhere far from the police. So he drew the alien spaceship and it appeared right in front of them. The aliens descended, furious and terrifying, asking who had summoned them and demanding to know where their device was. At that moment, everyone was shocked to see that Chang Yi had drawn a tank, climbed inside it with his assistants, and aimed the cannon at the aliens to eliminate them. But the aliens effortlessly redirected the tank's cannon back at them. It became clear that their physical strength was far beyond human. They beat Chang Yi as punishment for what he had done. He finally surrendered and gave back their device. But one alien grew extremely angry when he saw that the device had been altered to look like a regular pen. He held it up to Chang Yi's face and demanded answers. Juan stepped forward and confessed he was the one who had modified the device to look like a pen. Chang Yi had nothing to do with that part. The alien was impressed by Juan's honesty and conscience. He said this planet is very similar to theirs, where there is both evil and good. He decided they would take their device and leave peacefully. But before they left, Juan asked the alien for one final favor: to return everything that had been created by the pen back to where it originally came from. The alien agreed. And just like that, everything was restored. Every single object, even Tian's eyes, even the plumbing pipes, even the clothing that Chang Yi and his assistants had drawn, all of it was taken back. The aliens noticed the area was filling with police cars and helicopters. The situation was getting dangerous. They realized all of this chaos was because of them. And since their spaceship had also returned to its original location, they had nothing to ride back on. So, the aliens ran with lightning speed to escape before the humans could capture them. After that, the police arrested Chang Yi and his assistants on charges of kidnapping the beauty queen, who had been drawn from the magazine and held hostage. Chang Yi's wife also came forward and apologized to Juan, saying she had no idea there was a hidden camera on her clothes and that she had nothing to do with any of this. And with that, the story of the magical pen came to an end.